Hey there, Facebook family and people that just want to join me for yoga. This is not going to be so much as a flow tonight as it's going to be a follow-up instruction on how to modify yoga poses for joint limitations. A few people have actually asked me, and it's specific to people with joint issues. So I myself have rheumatoid arthritis, and even though I appear to be very bendy, there are a lot of things that I have to do to modify the position so that I can get in and out of that position. And there are some things that I can and cannot do. So as always with any yoga pose or any yoga practice, let your doctor know what you're doing, right? If you need to go in for an evaluation and just get checked out, say, hey, am I healthy enough to do this exercise program? Or am I healthy? Are my joints healthy enough that I can undertake this stretching program or this articulation of my joints? So that's one of the things that we can start working on. So I have some notes here so I can just kind of keep track of what I wanted to discuss. And I'm doing this on my iPad now, so that way, let me adjust a little bit more. So that way we can get a little bit better, there we go, a little bit better visuals on what I'm doing and I don't look so far away. So your skeletal system consists of your articulate skeletal system, and the parts that articulate are things like your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, hips, knees, and ankles. Those are the parts of your skeletal system that move around, that you can flex or extend, that you can rotate or externally rotate. That's your articulate skeletal system. And the rest of it is the parts of your body or the parts of your skeletal system that are more fixed in place. There's still some movement that's allowed in them, but they're like your rib cage. There's some movement that's allowed in your rib cage, but your rib cage houses your internal organs. It's connected to your spine, and one of the primary focuses of your rib cage is that it protects those internal organs. Your sternum protects your heart. Your ribs wrap around to protect your pancreas and your stomach, and you have their soft belly that is wrapped between your ribs and your hips, and that protects your soft tissues on the inside of you, right? So because I have rheumatoid arthritis, my articulation of my joints is a little bit different. We're going to go through some of that. So I'm going to start with my shoulders. Actually, let's start with the head. So there are some poses that have you either drop your ear down to one side or the other. Now, I can move my head to the left and look over my shoulder to the left much better than I can move my head to the right. My ability to move on one side versus the other feels different. And if you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll notice that I have said pay attention to what side of your body feels different than the other. So I can tilt my head to the right and drop my ear down to my shoulder way deeper than I can tilt my head. My head is more fixed. My neck is kind of more fused in this position because I have a catch in my cervical spine. And your cervical spine is your C1 through your C7, right about there. So I can't drop my ear down, my left ear down to my left shoulder as much as I can the right side. So that doesn't work for me. Anytime you go to a yoga class or you want to practice in your own home, it is imperative that you listen to what your body can do than what they're doing on the television, what the instructor's doing. You cannot, under any circumstances, compare yourself with somebody else, because some of your limitations may not have anything to do with flexibility and may have everything to do with the way that your skeletal structure is designed. So moving on from your neck down to your shoulders. So when you're doing a pose like half moon, your Ardha Chandrasana, one of the things that they have you do is you circle sweep your arms up overhead, you interlace your fingers, you release your index fingers for your steeple grip. So some people do not have the ability to get their arms up and over. Now on some days, I'm very good about circle sweeping my arms up overhead, but I have limitations in my right shoulder. I have limitations in both, but my right shoulder is more limited than my left. So sometimes I have to stay right here. And that's where I'm staying. And that's okay. That's what my body can do. And other times I can circle sweep my arms in front of me, interlace my fingers, and the left side of my body is going to work to bring up the right side of my body. So the left arm is supporting my right arm. And that's how I have to do yoga sometimes. You interlace your fingers, you release your index fingers for your steeple grip, and you begin your Ardha Chandrasana, which is your half moon pose, and you begin to tick-tock back and forth. Now, part of the pose is where you are supposed to have your shoulders in behind your ears. Some days I can do that. Other days that's not possible for me. So if that's the case, then my shoulders stay by my cheeks. Again, perfectly fine. And you begin your tick-tock back and forth, and you want to get that deep side body stretch from one side to the other. Again, be very, very careful about what your body can do. Now, if there's a day when you cannot get your shoulders above, then you know what? You're going to stay right here and you're going to tick-tock back and forth. And you may not get as deep of a stretch in your side body, but you're moving, even a little bit. And that's what matters. Okay? And that's for your Ardha Chandrasana, your half moon pose. And when I'm doing the yoga yin flows, that would be your bananasana. That's just a fun one to say. When you're doing your banana pose. So when you're laying on your back and you walk your feet to your right side and walk your shoulders and arms to right side, sometimes my shoulders don't go that way. They don't go up and over all the way. So they stay here, and I'll cactus my arms out. And if I can get one arm even up to the top of my head, then it stays there. Modify for what's going to work for your joints. And since I have a joint disorder throughout my entire body, I have learned very quickly to be very careful, because if you push it too far and you hurt yourself, well, then you're going to be taking 10 steps back from your practice, because now you have to heal. So I encourage everybody, just listen to your body, be gentle with your body. Okay, it's the only one you got. So take really good care of it, and it'll take really good care of you. So we've done our shoulders. So some people have limitations with your elbows. Again, if you can't extend all the way out, take micro bends, right? You don't have to lock your elbows in. You don't want to lock any joint in to begin with. So say you're doing your tabletop position, okay, and you're having some elbow issues. Don't lock them. Take a micro bend. All right, that micro bend is going to allow you to articulate your body the same way without causing issues to your joint by locking those elbows. Okay, now for your wrists. So because of the damage that was done to my wrist from my rheumatoid arthritis, I am better about having my palms flat. Let me lean back a little bit. Having my palms flat on the floor and being able to do stuff. But most days, I do everything on my fists. And you'll notice that probably now. A lot of the yoga poses I do, I'm literally doing on my fists. I cannot always curl my thumbs under, so I have them, and my thumbs work as kind of a kickstand. Now you're going to have to figure out for yourself how that works and how that's going to work best for you. So when you have your palms flat on the floor, when they tell you to articulate your hands so your finger or your middle finger points forward, you have to do that in a way that works for you. So sometimes I actually have to turn my hands inward to get a good position that doesn't put strain on my wrist joints. Some people are going to have to turn them a little bit further outward. I can't do that. But if you have just feel what works for you. So when you articulate your hands inward, go ahead and lean slightly forward and see how that pressure feels. If it's too much, withdraw back out of that. And then try again. Just little tiny modifications till you find that pose that works for you, and just kind of pay attention to where your body's at and where your hand's at, and then try to mimic that throughout your pose. You're going to see me doing a lot of stuff on my knuckles, on my fists, because that's just how it works for me. I've learned to modify a lot of things. So the other things that, like if you're going to sit in your on your knees, which is your Supta Vajrasana. I always get stumbled on that one. So your hero's posed, right? Your fixed firm pose when you're sitting on your knees. If you cannot sit on your knees, you're going to take one of your nifty blocks, or you're going to take a rolled up towel, your bolster, a thick pillow, whatever works for you. Lean forward and tuck that in behind you and sit on that. Sometimes you might need to if you're having a really bad day. Do what works for you. So I can sit in hero's pose like this on 2 blocks forever without straining my knees. But if I'm having a good day, my knees are a little more flexible and there's no pain, then I'm going to sit on my knees, and that's going to work great for me. But again, the way some people's bodies work, or their particular bone disorder or condition, you have to go day by day. And some days, man, I've got it and I'm great and I'm in the flow. I'm bendy, I'm stretching, I can hold my poses, and then there are days when I'm just falling over. And it's ridiculous. I have to use props in order to balance myself. Like, I can balance on my left leg lately, but I cannot balance on my right. It's not always going to be the same from day to day. So give yourself some grace, is what I'm trying to say. Always give yourself grace. And one of my favorite things to do is to sit on the blocks, because that lifts me up enough that it doesn't cause me any pain to do the hero's pose. And then one of the things about that is because I'm not straining to stay in that pose, I can actually arch my back up, extend all the way up through the midline of my body, and I can elongate through my rib cage, all the way up through my shoulders, through my neck, and through the crown of my head. And that's how we elongate our bodies, which allows us to take bigger, deeper breaths in through our belly. Inhale and exhale. You can take a deeper breath in a shorter period of time, but you can exhale and you can extend and elongate that exhale for a longer count. And if you remember, the shorter inhale for a count of 4 and that longer exhale for the count of 8 will reset that vagus nervous system, which calms your central nervous system down and helps to alleviate anxiety. So that's another great thing to do. Other things that you can do is always have a folded up towel. That works too. So say we're doing, what's a good pose? Say we're going to do the Janu Shirshasana, your head to knee pose, but your seated head to knee pose, right? So we're going to come out, we're going to sit down on our sits bones. And another thing that I recommend that you do, let me adjust this camera again, so it's a little further back, and I'll sit a little bit back. I'm getting better at this, so it'll go much smoother. So I'm just going to sit a little bit further back. So when you're doing your wide-legged forward fold, depending on how your sacral spine and how your hips and your pelvis is formed is going to depend on how far you can bend forward or if your body tilts backward. If that's the case, take a folded up towel and just sit on that, because sometimes all you need is 1 or 2 inches, and you get that 1 or 2 inches and you extend your legs out, then you're not fighting to stay upright. And if you're not fighting to stay upright, you can elongate it again through your whole side bodies, and then you're able to just walk your hands forward for your forward stretch. And when you're in this pose, only go to that first point of resistance and stay there. Give yourself a few breaths. And if at any point it feels like you can just slowly tiptoe your way forward or even do some slight rocking, that's okay. Listen to your body. As long as you don't feel any stretching or overstretching or any tearing sensation in these ligaments and tendons that run through your legs, you should be okay. Only push yourself in a healthy manner. Don't push yourself to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get all the way down there, and then you hurt something. I did that when I was younger, and I tore everything when I was doing gymnastics and I was doing the splits, and I went down too hard and too fast, and it's never fully recovered. So always be mindful of that. And then the older I got and the closer I get to 50, the harder it is for me to stretch out those tendons and ligaments that I've damaged throughout the years. Okay, so that's one way that you can sit your body up just a little bit higher. Now I'm bendy, so my sacral spine and my hip bones have developed in a way that make it so I can forward fold, I can do splits, I can, when I'm having a good days, of course, I can articulate my body in a more flexible manner. My build is that of what they call the athletic build versus like the apple or the pear or the hourglass. So I have a very narrow frame. I don't have very effeminate curves. The joke is that I look like a 13-year-old boy sometimes because I just have a body type that was built for athletics or for hard work. Not that nobody else works hard, of course they do. I was built to be kind of streamlined, and it's not the most effeminate shape to me personally, but it allows me to be more bendy and articulate my joints better. So, other things that you can do. So, let me get out of this position really quick. So when you're coming out of like extended positions like this, one of the things that works for me is either you bring your legs together and you lean down onto one hip, and then you can curl your legs underneath you and then rotate forward. Or if you're, again, having a really good day and you're extended out, I can cross my legs like this and then rotate on my knees and then bring them back out. That's, again, it's a good day. When you're doing certain poses, and I'm going to have to move my mat around a little bit, that kind of put pressure on your knees. So if you're doing, say, half pigeon, right? You're doing your half pigeon pose. So you've got one knee drawn up in front of you. Find yourself a good position so that you're not causing too much pressure when you lean forward on your IT band. And your IT band runs from here down through here, right? So sometimes if you need a block, use a block. If that's too much pressure, then use your car seat, the bolster. I got this, it's 2 inches, and I've never been so thrilled in my life to have discovered to just use my car seat cushion. Give me just enough lift to take the pressure off my joints. That was the greatest discovery ever. Seriously. But on your back leg, how you have that one forward, let me see if I can do it this way. There we go. Let's do it this way. Sometimes, because your back leg is extended all the way out, it can compress your knee. And it can shove that kneecap just enough that it causes discomfort. So at this point, you would take a small pillow or rolled up towel. You would place that knee underneath your ankle, and that lifts your knee it lifts your foot up just enough to take the pressure off that knee. Or in Sphinx pose, that's a good one. So when you're in your Sphinx pose, you're doing that deeper lumbar spine bend. Your shoulders are up, your chin is high, you're looking forward. But I was finding that it was causing compression in my knees and it was bothering me. So just lifting, let me show the back angle. So in your Sphinx pose, you're like this, but just lifting my feet up ever so slightly on this pillow took enough pressure off of my ankles and my knees that I could sustain that pose longer. Yin poses, you generally want to sustain anywhere between, depending on the pose, 3 to 5 minutes. The whole point of yin is to do deeper stretching poses, less poses, longer holds. It opens up all the fibers in your muscles, and it opens up all that fascia tissue that just works as this information highway, as well as the fascia is designed to compartmentalize the different organs and muscle. It compartmentalizes everything in your body. So the different muscles in your quadriceps, because you have your 4 primary quadricep muscles, it compartmentalizes all of them. That fascia is that membranous webbing that goes throughout your entire body. And it's necessary. You need that. Okay, so what else? We did ankles. So let's talk about micro bends. So micro bends are great. Like when you put the bolster underneath your ankles or that small pillow, that's kind of a micro bend. When you're doing a standing pose, like say you're doing a tree pose, so you've got your one foot into the crook of your groin. Don't lock your knee. You take the slightest of bends. Let's see if I can do it this way. So when your knee is locked, it's like this. But if you take a micro bend, you see that slight little bend that I'm doing? That's your micro bend. Your knee is not bent, but it is not locked. And then you can hold this pose just a little bit better without causing too much pressure on your knee. Okay? That's some of the other things that you can do. When you're doing a forward fold and you've got some lumbar spine issues, one of the things that you can do to guide your spine a little bit better and take some of that pressure off is put your hands on your hips, okay? Toes to touch, heels slightly apart. Take a deep breath in and extend all the way up through your ribs. And then slowly, in that extension, hinge yourself forward at the waist until your back is perfectly straight. And you can take a slight little micro bend here. So look at the line between my legs. This is me in a full extended leg, and then I take that micro bend, my knees come slightly together, and this space closes in on itself. So then you can slowly work your way down to wherever's comfortable. And if it's comfortable here, then you stay here. But if you can get all the way back down and stay, you know, just your forward fold, if you're going to do hands to feet, or just, well, generally if you're going to do a ragdoll, you're going to have feet hips distance apart. But that should help you to come into that forward fold, bend your knees slightly, roll your arms together, and then that way you can dangle and you can kind of take this slight swing. On your way back up, keep your knees in that slightly bent position. Roll your body up. Stack the vertebrae one on top of each other. If you're finding it difficult and you're finding compression in your lumbar spine, go ahead and put your hands back on your hips to activate your spine. Keep your focus on rolling up and go slower than everybody else. You know, go slower. Engage your glutes. And then allow your body to come the rest of the way up. Sometimes when you engage your glutes, it takes the pressure off your lumbar spine. Okay? So, other things that we can do. So if you're going to do your awkward pose, your Utkatasana. So you know how you come down, your arms are forward. If your arms can't come all the way forward, go ahead and have them bent at the shoulders, fingertips forward. And then, again, slight bend in your knees, and then come down as far as is comfortable for you. If you can only get to here, then you stay here. If you can come down all the way, then come down all the way. The thing about having your arms extended is it works as a counterbalance. But again, you have to work with whatever you can with your body in that point. You're going to feel that burning sensation in your thighs because your legs or your quadriceps are engaged. And I don't recommend doing the bouncing. My knees are not strong enough to do the bouncing on the way back up, and that's usually the third position. So do what works for you. I never do the bouncing. But when you are coming back out of that pose, these muscles through here, go ahead and tighten them up and engage them. Engage your glutes, engage the muscles in the back of your thighs, and use them to help you rotate, or not rotate, but push your way back up. The more you have those engaged, the less pressure you're going to have on your lumbar spine. Okay? And that, I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll go back through the comments and I'll check on them. And if you have any, you know, specific needs that you'd like to address, feel free to also direct message me. Just DM me and we can go through it. We can have a little chat about that. And so for things, and I had this green stretchy band that I was using as your band, your yoga band, in case you can't reach all the way back and you can hold that band. And I think one of the dogs took off with it because I have 7 and they're cheeky little monkeys. So I don't have my band, but I will replace that soon. Don't worry. All right. So, okay, well, if there's any other questions that you might have, these are just some of the modifications that you can do to suit your body. If you are dealing with any other illnesses, and I've been going through this, I was diagnosed with cancer in March of 2021. Cancer goes on a lot longer than what they tell you that it's going to be, especially if there's complications. Then you have to modify for your body. And if you can't do your yoga practice and it's more important for you to rest and heal, please do that. Please give your body a break. You'll pick up your yoga practice later on. One of the things that you can do if you cannot physically exercise is you can do some of the yoga mindfulness meditations. And that the mindfulness meditation meditations are designed specifically to be mindful of your mind, where you're at, and stay in the present moment at all times. If you can stay in this beautiful present moment, the past is already gone, the future has yet to unfold. If you can stay in this present moment, it will release a lot of the anxiety in your life. Because in this moment, know that you're safe. In this moment, know that you're okay. And that's one of the things that we all need to remind ourselves. So do a lot of breathing, a lot of deep, slow breathing. One hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just breathe. And let yourself know that you are loved and you are cherished, and it's going to be okay. Even in those challenging times when we are being tested, we're okay. We are okay. Know that I'm always here for you. I love you deeply. We're all human beings just trying to get through this. And I'm here for you if you need anything, and if you have any questions, please feel free to direct message me. On that note, have a lovely evening. I might do a flow tonight. Unfortunately, I cannot do any flows that require twisting, so I'm going to have to modify some of my poses for tonight if I do one tonight. If not, I'll probably do one in the morning. Okay? Take care of yourself and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.